Hello and welcome to the Prison Pod. This is episode 4 of Leaving the Emotional Cage, and this week's topic is the hard truth about people who hurt others. And we have Rob Corbin joining us to talk about this subject.
Good morning, Valerie. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so it's good to be with you again. And as always, the hard truth about people hurting others. Well, I'll tell you, the hard truth is that we live in an unfair world. We live in an unfair world filled with unfair people who will do and say things intentionally to harm others. And if we got to blame someone, we could blame our creator, I guess, because we were born with what is the law of free will, and the law of free will. Let's take a pause. So the law of free will is part of the master plan, I guess, for the universe when humans were created. And the law of free will gives every single person on this planet the ability to hurt other people. It's not fair. It's not right. But it is what it is. And so, we need to accept the fact that we have zero control over the actions of others. And there's a lot of monsters living in the world. And there's no gender separation of a monster. A monster can appear as a younger person, an older person, a man, a woman. And there are monsters running all around the world that do not have a thread of compassion and love in their hearts towards others, that actually get off on hurting other people. It's like taking a fix of a drug. It's part of who they are, and they have the right, because the law of free will, to be who they are. And the biggest hard pill to swallow is the fact that we have zero control over the actions of others. It's a really hard pill to swallow, but we have to remind ourselves of that hardcore fact of life. We have zero control over the actions of others. And so, that's what leads to wars. That's what leads to divorces. That is what leads to a lot of chaos and emotional distress in this world that we live in. And, Valerie, there's not a damn thing that we can do about it. However, the one thing that we have total control over is emotionally how we choose to feel about it. So we can either let it affect us to the degree that we are waking up every day as a depressed person, or filled with sadness, or bitterness, or revenge, or we can choose to not let it affect us. And that decision is on us. It's not other people's actions that determine how we want to live our life emotionally. It's all on us. And, I'm not saying anything that's new. I'm not saying anything that is a startling revelation of, oh my God, I never thought about this before. It's just something that we as human beings tend to not go inside of us and look at the bigger truth. And if we were to do this on a regular basis, automatically the result is that we're going to shed off a little bit of the negative energy that most of us live with and become more freer emotionally. It's all on us. It's not on anybody else.
I think, too, at times we tend to, I don't want to say allow those behaviors, but that's what we do. We allow those behaviors from others, um, more so when it's somebody who's closely related. In other words, we make more excuses for our children or our loved ones than we would make for somebody on the street. But that being said, is that doing us harm? Because that's how I look at these situations now. I look at them differently as I've gotten older. And if I'm in a relationship with somebody who's causing me harm, why am I doing that? Is it my lack of self esteem, my lack of self respect, my lack of self love? Because you made such an important um, mention that you cannot change the other person. You can only change how you react and how you feel personally. And
Mm-hmm.
it's their stuff and your stuff, and they're not the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then, the other thing that we talked about before is, the terminology, blood is thicker than water. That's in a scientific term that's used, but it doesn't obligate us at all to have any sort of relationship with anyone who is harmful. And we should not bear the burden of categorizing exceptions to that rule. Making an exception because someone happens to be a family member. There should be no exceptions to the rule that we need to do whatever we can do to be able to be emotionally free and not allow harm to come to us. Sometimes we're powerless when we're children because we live in an environment where people will hurt us and we're too young. We don't have the ability and the knowledge and the wherewithal to prevent that. But, when we leave our home, when we venture on our own, when we are an individual free from having to live under the same roof, for example, of someone who is a harmful person, then we can make a choice on how we choose to create boundaries in our life so that we can, the self-love and self-care, so that we can care for ourselves and prevent harm from happening by people who it's inevitable are going to continue to harm us. And I also use the example of my own sister, who I haven't spoken with in gosh, I think it's been probably 14 years because of my need to create a boundary so that I'm not hurt myself by my own sister, emotionally speaking. And so, we're all we got, Valerie. And we've got to look out for ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. And sometimes, that's a hard choice when it comes to family members. But, the other thing that I want to say here is that, someone, it's, we have to feel love for another person. And feeling love for another person is not a feeling that is created just based on the fact that they happen to be a family member. It's how they treat us, how our relationship with them exists. And, not all family members are loving and caring and passionate and nurturing and helpful and understanding and lend a shoulder that we can cry on. Not all family members offer that up as the way that we can have a relationship with them. And you were mentioning on a recent episode, sometimes we have to go to friends. Sometimes we have to go to other people that are not related to us to get what we need to be able to know that we're loved and we're cared for. So in my world, in my judgment, having a relationship with someone um, that is a good relationship is number one. And whether they're family or not, we need to take care of ourselves.
I think this is another thing is when addictions come in, that adds another whole level of pain and heartache when it comes to family members, and with the holidays coming up, because we're recording a little bit before Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Right.
and this will be coming out in December. So a lot of people have this feeling of obligation to spend time in the holidays with their families. And I decided once my children were all grown up, I wasn't celebrating holidays anymore because I didn't, not that my parents didn't try, but there was alcoholism in my family, and holidays usually somehow revolved around drinking, whether
Yeah.
it was the night before, the day of, or the day after, or New Year's, and whatever. So you have a different perception of the holidays. And I also saw the greed and the whole thing about the gift giving, and it was away from the love and the family and the compassion and all the things that Christmas was supposed to represent. So now I don't remember the point I was trying to make, but
Well, that's right. Well, no. I mean, it's all about choosing to make that decision to not be part of the fire, of the emotional fire, so to speak. And it's a choice. I'm not suggesting that we not stop seeing family members, even those who are not the nicest people in the world, but we need to adjust our expectations and knowing in advance that, hey, I'm doing this because I feel an obligation. Um, but if there is interaction that involves harm, then I'm going to leave that environment. We don't. We can make a choice to see someone and cut that meeting short anytime we want to. And once harm is received, we need to make a choice. Do I want to stay uh, in this moment, or do I want to change gears and hasta la vista and go take care of myself because I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel emotional pain. I don't want to feel hurt. And thank God we have the ability to make those decisions and do something about it. So, and the other thing is we can be honest with another person and say, you know what, I choose not to hang out with you any longer. And let me tell you why. Because in my judgment, you're an asshole. You're doing things and saying things that are harmful, and I have the ability to choose to not be around that. So, thanks for inviting me, and maybe we'll see you another time or not. That's my decision. And, hope you have a good rest of the evening. And just, tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. A lot of people emotionally are not as honest as they should be with another person. Sometimes, their way at dealing with it is to back off and not communicate with another person. People need to hear their truth. People need to hear it. We need to step up to the plate and express our truth, express our true feelings, and not shy away from it. So that's another thing. We need to clearly communicate, especially emotionally, what we feel. And family or not, we need to own our truth. We need to properly communicate that truth so that the other people are very clear as to the repercussions of their actions. And again, not having expectations that they're going to change, um, is a good thing. Just go in there with low expectations. If things are good, great. If they're not, then so be it. And have a threshold of whether we want to stay in that environment.
I think too, another thing is to clearly express your needs in a relationship. It's like when it's all one-sided or whatever, and you say, hey, wait a minute, I don't get what I need out of this relationship. So, why am I here?
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that is good therapy for us, uh, and I've used this myself, is to say, is this the kind of person that I want to be able to model in my own life? Is this the kind of person who is a happy person, who is content with their lives, who is someone that I can look up to? And it's just so unfortunate that they choose to harm me. Or is this a person that I should have pity for because the way that they're living their life, it goes back to the old saying, and Will Smith said it best in a recent interview, when he slapped the comedian, forgot the guy's name, Valerie. What was the guy's name? Yeah, anyway. So, but, hurt people hurt people. People who are not nice, who are monsters, who just don't have a thread of compassion in their lives towards others, and are not, who are the last people in the world that you would ever go up to if you needed some emotional support. They're not the happiest people in the world. They're living their own, they have their own demons. They have their own skeletons in the closet. And, and I mentioned this in an earlier episode, there's usually a bigger picture than what we see. They're probably fighting some demons that may be pretty big demons. And we just, hurt people. So their way of dealing with it to relieve their own pain and suffering is to not be kind to others. And it's never a solution, but it is a way to unlock the valve and let some of the steam out. It's just a shame that it harms others. That's all.
I felt for a long time that if you were kind to people that were like that to you, if you just said, well, let it roll off my back and just keep being kind and just be nice. But then you start feeling like a pile of dog shit. Excuse me. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like you stepped in something and it just the smell won't go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and it makes it harder, I think, on you because then you're trying to be kind and compassionate and caring. And I swear the other person lashes out more. It's like, and that makes me think of the person's own self-worth and self-understanding and how they feel about themselves. They don't feel that they deserve it.
Yeah.
So the only way to handle that, and the way I understand this, is for a long time, instead of me dealing with pain, I hate to cry in front of somebody. I hate it. So instead of dealing with pain, I would get angry.
Yeah.
So if you hurt me, I'm going to react in anger because I'd rather be angry and pissed off than to have you have that satisfaction that you got my heart.
Right. Exactly. So, Valerie, I wanted to mention the best medicine for us to be able to get what we deserve. And what we deserve is to live emotionally free from the past. And the best way to do that is, and I thought about this a little bit, that it's really true. The best revenge is peace from the past. It's peace from the past. Learning how to understand that we have no control over the behavior of other people, but that it's not what other people say or do to us that determines emotionally how we're going to live that day or live our life moving forward. It's how we decide to deal with it. And so we have the ability to make a choice to become emotionally free. And it is a decision. Forgiving is a decision, and also living with emotional freedom is a decision. We need to be kind to ourselves, and we need to understand that, at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can do about changing other people. But it's not the event, it's how we choose to respond to the event that determines, are we going to live emotionally free in our lives, or are we going to become or allow ourselves to stay a victim of the harm that other people do? And, it goes back to the beginning of the podcast where I said, we live in an unfair world. We need to remind ourselves that we live in an unfair world full of what I use the term monsters. And there's no separation when it comes to a monster of a family member or not, or how close that family member is to us. Monsters appear, and they're everywhere, and we have to decide, if we're going to let that affect us or not. So I'm reminded of the former leader of India, Mohammed Gandhi. I hope I'm pronouncing his first name right, but back in the 40s, I think he was the leader. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was in the late 40s. And he was a true leader, and he led by passively resisting all the people that were trying to bring him down. And he spent many years in prison. And anyway, people can do their research on him. But he said, and I read this in an article, that the most peaceful time in his life was in prison. He said that was the time where he found the most peace, because he was able to have zero distractions with the chaos of the world and devote his time to developing a stronger spiritual relationship with God. And I thought that was kind of fascinating, that, in any environment that we are, we can choose to make that time to our advantage by having the ability to just go deeper into ourselves and into our spirituality, and have a closer relationship with that higher power, if we believe that there is a higher power. There are non-believers out there, and I don't judge anyone because of what they choose to believe or not to believe. But the fact is that we have that time to have our inner peace, our inner space, and just to understand that that it's on us how we choose to wake up every morning, in any environment, and be at peace.
You made me think of people that are going through the process of segregation. And by that, I mean segregation in prison when they are doing solitary confinement. And I know that a lot of times they are not allowed anything in there, anything.
Yeah.
And I understand there's certain risk and whatever, but piece of paper and pencil, man, give them their books, and if those who do have a spiritual base, if they could funnel the punishment into opportunity, which is very hard to look at it that way when you're sitting there in that situation. But if you can look at it just as that, the way that Gandhi did, that you are by yourself without the distractions. If you are a writer, even if you're just writing your feelings, if one day you feel hate and anger and fear, and then maybe the next day you don't feel that way, that the next day is a better day for some reason, whether it's the sun coming through the crack of the window or whatever. But, it's just perception. A lot of it all has to come down to perception.
I'll tell you another thing that I've done myself in my own life. Music, personally for me, is there's certain songs that when I listen to, that I'm in another dimension in my life. It can be of joy, it can be of sadness, it can be of just being totally at peace and serenity in the moment. Music for me has an emotional effect. And, you know, uh, sometimes in my own life, I play a favorite song in my mind. Like one of my favorite artists of all times is Paul McCartney. I just love the guy. Been to a few of his concerts, and I just love the guy. And there's a couple of songs that McCartney sings that are just some of my all-time favorite songs. And if I'm ever stressed, if I'm in a situation where there's no one available to lend a hand emotionally to support me in the moment, whatever I'm feeling or going through. I'll play some songs in my own mind if I don't have the opportunity to actually turn it on at that moment. I'll just play it in my own mind, close my eyes, and listen to some really good music that has always been a part of my life that makes me feel good to listen to. And, you can do that anywhere. You can do that anywhere. Play some music in your mind. I know the lyrics. I know the sounds, and we have the ability to do that in our own minds. What a great gift that is. Anytime, anywhere, we can turn it on. Anytime that we want, we can think about, if the day comes where I become free from confinement, what is that going to feel like? What is that going to look like? And what do I want to do going forward in my life to just enjoy to the 10th degree what life remains for me on this earth? What would be my ideal way of living life for the next, 10 years or 5 years or 20 years? What would that look like? And really go deep into it. And know that, there's the possibility of that happening. So embrace that possibility. Embrace what could be, because what could be may end up being. It may come to reality. And there's where hope comes in, so that's all part of this puzzle of being at peace, even in the worst of circumstances.
And it comes into where the vision boards. I used to think, that's kind of a silly thing, but when you take pictures of things that you want in your reality and put them there so you can see them, it helps you create that reality. So if we work on those inner things like patience, being kind, it doesn't cost a thing to be kind, and it can be a smile. Something as simple as a smile. Good morning.
Yeah.
Gee, you look a little down today. Are you okay?
Yeah.
That just,
And anytime we want, wherever we are, whether it's in solitary or not, we can practice our breathing exercises. We can close our eyes. We can go into a state of meditation, even if we don't know how to meditate. Meditation can come in such a simple form as just closing your eyes, concentrating on your breathing, slowing your breathing down, and allowing yourself to become in a relaxed, conscious state. That can be done anywhere. All we have to do is to make the decision to do that, to close our eyes, to slow our breathing down, to think of what the future can hold, and what it could hold, and embrace that. And then the other thing is to never give up, hope. Never give up hope. The day that we give up hope, we become defeated. And the truth is that that the battle lies within, and it's within our heart and the way that we think and choose to think. And so and you spoke about this previously, we're our own best friend. We have to love each other. We have to take care of each other, and of ourselves. And, fortunately, that can be done anywhere, at any time, 24/7. So, just thinking about that, I feel like, gosh, we're blessed that we have that ability in our lives, regardless of where we are.
We need to claim our power that we have over ourselves. The idea that we do have control of our own thoughts and feelings. And maybe we need to learn how to express them and use them, but they are there. And when you learn how to use them, you do become a better friend to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen on that. Amen on that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to get ready to close here. I just was thinking about something when you were talking about hope. My old website said, never give up hope because miracles happen every day. And I truly believe that that is true. And each of us walking around here is a walking miracle.
Mm-hmm.
We get up every day and this body of ours, for some reason, just goes. The hearts are ticking, right. The brains are moving, and the cells are regenerating, and here we are.
Yep.
So
I want to, if we have another minute, I want to end with something that I've used a couple of times in seminars that I've done, and that is that we can be either committed, or we can be involved, and the difference between being committed and involved is like bacon and eggs. The chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. And so we need to remember the pig and the chicken, Anyway, I've enjoyed being with you today, Valerie, very much. Looking forward to another episode, and I so much appreciate, being with you and being able to do this podcast.
I love having this opportunity to get together with you, Rob, and you've got such a great message to share with everyone. I can't wait to see what our future ones bring. Yeah. I want to remind everyone they've been listening to the Prison Pod with Rob Corbin. He's been sharing Leaving the Emotional Cage, and we are on part 4 right now. We've got a couple more sessions left to come up, and we look forward to be back with you in just a little bit of time. So until then, pick up a book. You never know where it'll take you.
That's right.